Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to Monday Musings-Danny SportsWrap, and certainly we have our plate extremely full on this Monday, but the way we decide to disseminate this could have changed in a million different fashions. Of course, you may have, over the past few hours, seen the Twitter silliness about Patrick Mahomes retiring from football or quitting until the Chiefs made a name change, and of course that was Twitter silliness, but people bought it for a little bit of time. Some people did anyway. A few people did, and it's kind of funny to see the reactions of people, including such real silliness as saying, he's overrated, I don't care, whatever, and but certainly that was not real. We stick to the real here, and the real was that I was going to open this podcast in the A block, as it were, with conference realignment. But then what did Sunday bring? Sunday brought domination by Sporting Kansas City to wrap up the sports weekend as they completely dominated Seattle, which had easily been the best team in the league so far this year. They get the win. They pull even with Seattle on points per game. They look like a dominant crew. They're scoring goals left and right. They get 3 in this one as they get the win. And then earlier in the day, domination from Daniel Lynch, who had shown no signs of that in his first go-round in the major leagues, and he had 3 rough starts. He goes as long as any pitcher has, longer than any pitcher has for the Royals this year, 8 innings of shutout ball, and lo and behold, the Royals win 5 in a row headed into today, and the White Sox come to town, and all of a sudden the Royals have some feel-good vibe, just as the Chiefs are really revving up training camp in earnest as veterans come in. The Royals saw a Tigers team that had won 7 consecutive games coming in, and they turned them on their ears. Sal Perez hitting bombs left and right. Jorge Soler actually hitting the baseball. Hunter Dozier trying to creep over 200. All kinds of things to talk about. There's the Olympics. There's the U.S. men's basketball team creating a little drama for themselves. There's all kinds of things to talk about on this Monday. Let's do it. Monday Musings, presented by Dillon's Heating and Cooling. It comes your way next.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
Time to spend a few minutes with my good friend Jeff Dillon from Dillon's Heating and Cooling. And Jeff, what differentiates your company from others in the industry?
Plain and simple, we're honest. We have integrity, and we're going to do things right the first time. There's way too many companies out there that lie, cheat, hide things from the homeowner or customer, and we're not about that. It's kind of funny sometimes. I actually am so honest with some people, it kind of surprises them. But sometimes it's good for business, sometimes it's bad for business. But ultimately, it's the kind of business that I want to run, is an honest one.
And that family way of treating things is part of your slogan, and it's also part of one of your great features that you offer to customers.
Our slogan is like family. Our most popular maintenance plan is called the Family Plan. It's very similar to a lot of ones out there. The little tweak that we do to ours, 1% off for every 2 years. They have a continued maintenance plan with us. If they have a maintenance plan for 10 years, then we give them 5% off, no questions asked.
You can find out more about Dillon's Heating and Cooling and all their great range of services at dillonsheatingandcooling.com. That's Dillon's with an S. The phone number, 913-214-1343. Cinematic Visions has been an affordable solution for professional media production in Kansas City since 2003, offering award-winning video production and creation, as well as a wide array of digital and social media management services. From planning, scripting, filming, editing, and post-production to delivering your product to a watching world, Cinematic Visions will provide professional and affordable services for you and your business with the necessary return on investment to make it all worthwhile. Cinematic Vision's goal is to unlock the power of storytelling through video and a strong online presence for your company. Beyond the numbers, they want to inspire and evoke your clients to feel and act. Let my friends at Cinematic Visions embed your brand where it belongs, in your customers' minds. You can find them online at cinematicvisions.com or with a quick phone call at 816-600-6300. Let's have a brief conversation with David Schmidt from Pro Millennial. David, what differentiates you from other financial organizations?
I would say the passion we have for seeing our clients succeed is probably paramount to what we do here. There's no joy greater than watching a client accumulate wealth. I had a client that I've had for many years was able to buy his dream warehouse. Nothing too extravagant, but we had a savings plan in place and was able to see him fulfill his dreams.
And what else motivates you in this industry?
Well, lately it's been finding out inconsistencies in the marketplace, ferreting out some more than questionable ideas out there that what we're seeing with Bitcoin and a few of these other cryptocurrencies right now. I'm of the opinion where if it's untraceable, it really needs to be regulated in a big way right now.
To get more information and advice from David, visit promillennial.com or call 816-221-7775. That's 816-221-7775. We're here once again with Dr. Brad Woodle from Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture. Springtime, good weather's finally here. People want to stay active, and it's your job to make sure that they can stay active, and be healthy.
Danny, we see a lot of not just weekend warriors, but people that every day are having that want to get back to activity. Whether you're starting with walking, jogging, or maybe that first 5K of the year, we want to help you out. We specialize in taking care of all ages, from kids all the way to grandmas and grandpas, but absolutely specialize in getting you back to full function and keeping you in great shape.
So in short, how do we go about doing that?
The first thing is to schedule a consultation with one of our doctors and therapists so we can see how you move and how you're supposed to move. Based on our assessment, we can put together a short treatment plan and a set of goals to help you both feel better, function better, and most importantly, stay better for this year and many years to come.
Learn more at asfca.com/Danny. That's asfca.com/Danny. If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at Danny@DannyKlinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you. Welcome back, and it's Monday Musings, presented by Dillon's Heating and Cooling. Go see Jeff and his fine crew, and they'll help you out in this hot summer. If you're getting some problems with that air conditioning, this is some bad timing for that, with temperatures up near 100 all week long, and they'll treat you like family. They're more important, well, not more importantly, treating you like family is important, but they will get the job done, get it done right, get it done at a reasonable cost as well. It's Dillon's Heating and Cooling, the sponsor of Monday Musings. Danny SportsWrap right here, which starts off with Sporting Kansas City. They ended the sports weekend last night. Oh, I don't know if the sports weekend ever really ends, because in the middle of the night we saw the Twitter silliness I referred to in the open. But Sporting goes to Seattle. They dominate the proceedings. They score 2 late goals in the first half, in the 31st and 42nd minute. The first on Johnny Russell's free kick, which was an absolute thing of beauty. Daniel Shalloway continues his hot form with his 9th goal of the year. But Seattle pulls one back early in the second half, creating a little bit of drama for Sporting Kansas City. But they strike back 20 minutes later as they continue to actually control play and control possession, although that's what Seattle actually allows you to do. And Cam Duke scores his first goal as a Sporting Kansas City player. The homegrown player gets the goal in the 72nd minute, and Sporting played it out from there, not really allowing much and getting the victory. And it was only the second loss of the year for Seattle. Sporting scored 1/4 of the amount of goals that Seattle had given up all year long by scoring the 3 goals. They move into a tie in points per game with Seattle at 2 points per game, and they're within 3 points of the Supporters' Shield, with the New England Revolution playing very, very well in the Eastern Conference. And Sporting is just humming along right now, and they did so in the last 2 games with Peter Vermes out after testing positive for COVID, despite being vaccinated. Of course, he couldn't coach either game directly, but he weighed in after each game via Zoom, and obviously very connected to the team. But usually, after a game like this, he's going to be full of accolades and things like that, and he was very pleased with his team. But I think right now, a lot of coaches do this. If the team is struggling a bit, maybe they'll bump them up and say that they played a little bit better than we all really know they did. Maybe if they're just starting to find their form, there's a lot of praise given to the squad. But then when they really start humming along, which the Sporting is right now, perhaps the coach wants them to back off a little bit as far as the praise is concerned. So he takes a more calm approach to what was a great victory, 3-1 over Seattle.
I think right now everybody's kind of going through the grind of the summertime. And, I think we were just fortunate enough to put together a good effort, which resulted in a good result. So, outside of that, we're still points behind. They're still points ahead, and we gotta keep trying to, gather as many points as we can as we move through the season here.
The stress level is a little bit different, knowing that you had a 2-0 lead to start this one out and watching it not in Seattle. For you?
Well, I can tell you that, being the way I am right now, it doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't beat being on the sideline, obviously, because I relieve a lot of stress on the sideline, as most of you can see probably on a pretty regular basis. So it's I don't know if it's stress. It's just, I'm in the game. So it's tough being in the game, but I'm at home, watching it here. It's not easy.
Peter, how tough has it been for you to be at home there and having to try to, express yourself when you can't on the sidelines and try to figure out all the logistics of it?
Yeah, the logistics are really tough. It just is. There's a lot of rules in and around our game about not being able to communicate with anyone on the team there, so that's been very difficult as well. I've had a couple opportunities to do Zooms and stuff like that, but it's just not the same. So I'm glad that this is over with, and I'll be back this week and be back in the swing of things, so I'm looking forward to it.
Peter, this is the first time in a while we've gotten to see Remy Walter go 90 minutes. It seemed at the beginning of the season, at times he was maybe a little bit out of the speed of the game. Has the ability to get integrated with the team over this period? You didn't play a lot in the last calendar year, correct? So just what have you seen from his assimilation over the last few weeks?
Yeah, I think you probably maybe hit the nail on the head. I think where he's had a little bit of adaptation has been the speed, physicality of our league. But I think last game he was better in the way that he kind of approached the game. I think. I also think that this game he started out much more disciplined and staying in the middle of the park, playing as a number 6. I thought at the end when we went to 2 and 1 basically is what we did. I thought he actually finished the game really, really strong. If there's one thing that's really good about him is he got really good vision and he always makes really good passes and good decisions on the ball. So I think now that he's seeing the pace and kind of the physicality, and also you got to take in consideration the climate in which we deal in. I think it's for our new guys, it's completely different. But I think they're all getting there. But I think he finished the game really strong today.
And then Cam Duke gets that third goal for you guys. Just how good has he been in the last couple of games for you, and what do you see from him in the future as well?
Well, I would just say that I'm very happy for him. Sometimes I think guys have to prove to themselves that they can do certain things or they can play at this level. And I think at times for young players, what happens is doubt creeps into them a little bit. And I think for Cam, at times, he's had a little bit of ups and downs maybe in his confidence. And I think, these last 2 games, the way that he's approached the games has been tremendous for the team. I hope that he continues to grow in confidence and maybe even a little bit of arrogance, because he's a shy kid and he needs to stick his chest out a little bit, especially because he's done well. He's proven that he can contribute and help the team win, and that's what you're here for. So, again, I'm happy for him, and he just needs to build off of this.
Last question for Peter goes to Sean Goodwin with the Kansas City Star. Sean, your line is open.
Yeah, Peter, you touched on it a little bit with Remy in the 6 along with Elie. We haven't really seen that double pivot 2-6 really in a long time. How did you like how that worked out, and how did you like how it tied down the game?
We've done it in other games as well. Just to kind of finish out a game or what have you. I just think that Remy finished the game really strong, especially wasn't sure if he could go 90 minutes. So the fact that he was able to hang on and do that, it was excellent. It's a big step forward for him and for us, because we need him in the middle of the park. We need him available for selection. We need Gotti to get fitter as time goes on here. It was good. I just think that the guys finished off strong. They really possessed the ball a lot better today. The rhythm was much better than in their last game, and I hope that continues to build, because that's where we left off when we played against LA. We were very good on the ball, and I think we're starting to embark back on that form.
Sporting returns to the pitch next Saturday, and it is at home at Children's Mercy Park, and the team that is really, really moving it goes against Dallas in the match at Children's Mercy Park, and they will be hosting that 7:30 match and doing so as a very, very hot team. One other soccer note from this portion of the world: the U.S. men's national team gets a victory in the quarterfinals of the Gold Cup as they beat Jamaica by a count of 1-0, and they move on to the semifinals. But right around here, it's all smiles with Sporting Kansas City getting the job done time after time after time, and it looks like it's going to be a real fun season with Sporting, a team that not only wins but also entertains, scores goals, and really does a lot of things right. Well, that certainly has not been the case for the Kansas City Royals for much of this season, but at least just before we get Chiefs coverage in earnest, and we'll talk about the Chiefs a little bit later on as the veterans are in camp and everything revs up for real in St. Joe, if, in my mind, anything really revs up in a training camp setting. But they give their fans who are about to see their attention diverted to other things a little dose of good news right after the All-Star break as they get themselves a 5-game winning streak. They didn't start out after the break all that well, but they have it going right now. And the biggest news of the day yesterday, of course, on Sunday, was the fact that Daniel Lynch provided a glimpse of the future, something to dream on a little bit as the Royals beat the Tigers 6-1 to complete a sweep. A couple of home runs in the game for Jorge Soler as his average creeps toward 200. Sal Perez hit 2 home runs over 450 feet this weekend. He hit 3 home runs in total. He's slugging over 500 now. And a lot of good things are happening with the Royals right when they needed them. Does this mean anything as far as this season is concerned? No. Heard some people or saw some people on Twitter or some chatter on the radio about the Royals aren't sellers now. 5 wins right now for where the Royals are shouldn't change anything they're thinking about doing as far as the future is concerned. If they can make a good deal that can really impact their team, they should do so. I guess what people are saying is they think that seeing these victories that the Royals can compete next year, so we don't want to see somebody like Whit Merrifield traded away, as a lot of reports have said that the Royals might be willing to do that. I think the Royals definitely are willing to do that, but the price they ask for a lot of times precludes anybody really trying to acquire a player like Whit Merrifield for them. But things are on the uptick, at least for now. Now, the White Sox are a very good team. They could come to town and sour things very, very quickly. But the most important long-term thing is to see Daniel Lynch go out and dominate in an 8-inning, really effective performance. Sped the game along, threw only 95 pitches in those 8 innings. In another setting, they probably could have allowed him to pitch a complete game, but you want to be careful in that regard. Hunter Dozier has started to hit the ball. He just barely was at the cusp of getting over 200, but an 0 for 4 yesterday has him back at 196. But he's having a great month of July. Not that much power, but he's hitting the ball the other way, doing things like that. And Jorge Soler seems to be warming up with the weather as well. So a lot of good signs for the Royals. It does come at a good time, and it certainly is something that for baseball fans who want to have something fun to look at beyond July, it has created a little bit of excitement around the Kansas City Royals. Winners 6-1 yesterday and winners of 5 consecutive games, and that is a good thing, to say the least. Now, 5 wins in a row at some other point about a month and a half ago would have been nice to stem a losing streak or keep the Royals somewhat in contention, but you take what you can right now as the Royals on a good little groove with the White Sox coming to town for a 3-game set. Well, coming up next, we got a lot of things to deal with. Of course, yesterday it was the Big 12 sitting down, at least by Zoom, with Texas and Oklahoma and trying to patch things up. I don't think that's going anywhere, and this situation is certainly evolving, and that's what we'll talk about. The landscape of college sports coming up, a little bit of Olympics, and, well, a little bit more. On Monday Musings-Danny SportsWrap, it's here each and every Monday, brought to you by Dillon's Heating and Cooling.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
I'm here with Joe Spiker, owner of Easton Roofing. And Joe, there's all kinds of roofing companies in Kansas City. People see their trucks, they see their ads, they see their commercials on TV. What separates you out from the pack?
Danny, there's a lot of roofers in Kansas City that are good roofers that can put a good roof on, but we like to pride ourselves on giving you a good customer service experience. From the first time you call, you're going to get a friendly voice on the phone. We're going to let you know what's happening and when it's happening. And, the other piece is some companies are small enough to do small jobs. Some companies are big enough to do big jobs. We're right there in the middle. We can handle the little stuff. We can handle your repairs all the way up to your big commercial roofs.
So what's the best way for folks to get in touch with you at Easton Roofing?
You can find us at eastonroofing.com, or you can always call us at 913-257-5426. That's 913-257-5426.
Easton Roofing. Integrity matters. We're here with Michael Barber, the CEO and founder of Microlight Corporation of America, the world leaders in laser therapy. And Michael, tell us a little bit about your product.
Our device is using a particular wavelength and power to reduce pain and swelling. My background is surgical lasers, but I've been involved with this particular device now for about the last 20 years, actually.
And I know that it works because I've had it
There
used
you go.
on me as well. And tell us about the relationship you have with your company and Canaway.
It's what I call a strategic business relationship in that Canaway, the leader in the field of the cannabinoid systems and CBD oil, but our device used in conjunction with Canaway CBD oil gives a better pain relief outcome for the patient.
And if you want to get that pain relief outcome like I did, you can reach their local representative, Sherry McCants, at 515-208-6312. That's 515-208-6312.
Hey everyone, this is Matt Llewellyn for the 23rd Street Brewery. Thank you so much for supporting local restaurants, especially through this pandemic. And you know what? We're almost through it. At the 23rd Street Brewery, we have brought in a few more tables. You can wear a mask if you want, or not. It's your choice. Other than that, we're open 11:30 every single day. So come see us at the 23rd Street Brewery in Lawrence.
Most of us have experienced auto accidents, and it's no fun. And even less fun is trying to work on the insurance aspects afterwards and getting full value after an auto accident. I'm here with David Cowan from RecExpert.com. And David, you have an unusual and important niche for people after an auto accident.
We have a passion to teach car wreck clients what they deserve. Getting your car repaired only fixes the damage and the paint. Getting paid for your car's loss in value is called diminished value. Chances are you've never heard of this before because most people aren't looking out for you. We help people collect thousands to tens of thousands of dollars for their car's loss in value after the wreck.
And if somebody wants to come to you for that, what's the original assessment cost them?
We offer a free review of any insurance claim to see how we can help.
You can't beat that. Great expertise and assistance in getting full value after an auto accident from David Cowan. Visit RecExpert.com and learn more.
If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at Danny@DannyClinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you.
Welcome back to the Musings. It's brought to you by Dillon's Heating and Cooling, and it's time for a story that's certainly going to be rolling along on multiple levels, and that's college football realignment or college sports realignment. Conference realignment basically is more to the point, and also name, image, and likeness. And, of course, we've seen Oklahoma and Texas basically almost certainly now headed to the SEC. I'm sure there's a couple of hurdles to be overcome, approval, but it seems like that train is headed absolutely rocking and rolling in that direction. And I think these things are all tied in together. I think part of the reason that Oklahoma and Texas probably viewed this opportunity to go to the SEC, certainly it's the best conference, it's the toughest conference, it's the most lucrative conference, but also it's probably a conference where it's a little bit easier for your players to perhaps make more money in name, image, and likeness, and that's a big recruiting tool now. And on multiple levels, the Southeast Conference is a gigantic recruiting tool, and so Texas and Oklahoma almost certainly are headed in that direction. And this whole restructuring in these mega conferences and where conferences will land and the history of conferences that once were or maybe never will be again, the Big 12, in my mind, will probably exist in some way, shape, or form, but it just won't in any way really look like the Big 12 did. The brand itself, the name itself is probably too strong to just go away. It's a stronger brand than, say, Conference USA or something like that. So even though it may bear some resemblance to Conference USA as far as the structure is concerned, and whether the Big 12 itself will actually include schools that we pay attention to in this area, Kansas and Kansas State, there's no way of telling that either. It would seem maybe more likely that Kansas State would eventually be a team in the Big 12, but because Kansas has such a strong basketball brand, and we'll get to that in a little bit, and maybe they are seen as a more attractive partner for a league like the Big 10, or in fact, possibly the ACC. Somewhere down the line. You just don't know how it's going to shake out. It does seem to be headed to 4 gigantic conferences of 16. That was something that maybe a decade ago we talked about, and people said that that was inevitably where it was going, and then it was structured in a way with new TV deals and everything that it seemed like that idea went away. But now there is so much money that Oklahoma and Texas can really afford to buy out the grant of rights, and there's all kinds of different levels of this. And also, one of the things that I've talked about all along, and sometimes I think it's seen as old-fashioned or short-sighted or nearsighted, whichever way you want to look at it, is how people of certain ages will view college sports the way they are now. I mean, do you just kind of look at it and say, that's my school, and that's the guys who are playing for my school or gals that are playing for my school, and it has the name of my school across the front of the jersey, so whether they stay for 1 year or whether they transfer in for 6 months or whether they are making $1.5 million and really chose your school because a certain car dealer decided that he could pay more money than anybody else, I don't know if people will view that in the same way. I don't think they can view it exactly the same way, but maybe they still will have that level of enthusiasm. In my mind, it probably would be a much more, I don't know, equitable, realistic, fair, honest way to present sports, that we would just have the club sports program and model that they have in Europe, where you join a club and there's no real academic side to it involved. You just go to school at a school that has no association with the fact that you're playing a sport, and you play that sport, and you play for Sporting Kansas City as you grow up from 10 to 12 to 14 to 16, and then that's your route to whatever sport you play, and then school is separate. And if you wanted to have athletics at a university, it maybe is even non-scholarship for everybody. But I don't think, because of all the history and because of people's enthusiasm and because 80,000 people very much enjoy showing up on a Saturday to see Alabama or Georgia play, and maybe people just don't care about the structure. And there's all kinds of unintended consequences here. I think it's going to be really difficult for coaches. They have to embrace this. They have to tell their players that, hey, if you come here, we're a better place for you to raise your brand and increase your brand. But how can they avoid the fact that there's going to be certainly jealousies? You're trying to do team building, and particularly in a team like football where there's so many players, and there's going to be this ridiculous diversity in the amount of money that different people make. If you're in a high-level basketball program, I think that there's room probably for most of your really main guys to be kind of making the same amount of money for their name, image, and likeness. On a football team, there's no way that even a starting left guard is going to be anywhere near the ballpark of a star wide receiver or quarterback, and I can't imagine that that's not going to be seen as, in jealous terms. Now, all along, whether there was money or not, the quarterback gets the girl, and the quarterback is the star anyway. And the offensive linemen are almost relish in being anonymous. But when there is actually dollar signs attached to it, I think it's a little bit different. And I think that we also are going to see a situation where it will create the opposite of what we see now, which is people staying at a university for very short periods of time. And now a player who's a good player, but maybe not a star potentially at the pro level, will want to extend his stay as long as possible at a university, because his name, image, and likeness is going to be worth a whole lot more if he's playing for Notre Dame than if he's playing down at the Muni. There's all kinds of interesting things that are going to go along with this, and there's dominoes to fall. But I think a lot of times people think of this in very structured and cut and dried ways that, well, this is good because these athletes have not been getting their share of the pie, and that is true. But, to say that, well, we're going to do that and there's going to be no consequences whatsoever, and there's not going to be the possibility of real overt spending by rich car dealers and oil people and stuff like that, and that's fine. But I think what we hear from some people is that these people will sort of self-regulate, that they're shrewd businessmen, and that they don't want to throw away their money and not get true value for having the face of the quarterback at their local university, pitching for their restaurant or their car dealership or their oil company or whatever. But we see people who have all kinds of means spend ridiculous sums of money for precious little return, except for prestige and getting to rub elbows with the star player or get to pitch plays to the head coach or whatever. And there's no real return for big-time boosters. In many of these cases now, they're not even getting the name, image, and likeness of everybody. They're just getting to be sort of hot shots and get to brag to their friends that they get to go to a cocktail party with Bill Self or Bill Snyder back in the day, or Nick Saban, or whoever it is. So I'm not so sure that these people are going to be doing much self-regulating, but it's going to be interesting. That's one thing. It is going to be interesting, and it's going to be an interesting thing that has nothing to do with what we watch, and that is the athletics that are played at a high level by these particular athletes. And it's a different landscape. I think there's some things that are absolutely excellent about it. I think there's some things that are going to be absolutely horrendous about it. And I think that for people to ignore both sides of that, I think is rather foolhardy. Well, perhaps yesterday you rose up bright and early and maybe you flipped on the TV, or I don't even actually know if it was on live, but USA men's basketball lost their first game. They sort of emulated the U.S. women's soccer team, which lost their first group stage game. They have since bounced back and won a game handily. Now, this is hardly any kind of death knell for the U.S. losing their game to France. They did get outscored 16-2 down the stretch. They didn't shoot the ball particularly well. France looked like much more the cohesive team in watching the highlights and seeing the analysis of this particular game. And they had a focal point player in Evan Fournier. The U.S. is just sort of an all-star team that's slung together, and it's here, you go now, and you go now, and some of the guys hadn't even practiced, and I think the U.S. is going to be fine. That doesn't mean they're necessarily going to win. This is a real competition now with fine teams, and I'm sure if the U.S., for instance, was going to play France again, they'd be a little more fired up to play them, having been beaten by them. But there's no guarantee that the U.S. now wins. One of the things that is a factor in the fact that they're not as dominant as they once were is that these teams are chock full of players who play in the NBA and play against the U.S. stars all the time, and there's really no awe factor like back in the day when people would ask Michael Jordan for an autograph or whatever. And also they've beaten the United States in multiple competitions through the years, be it when they were at a younger age or actually in the biggest competitions like the World Championships. So that factor is not there for the United States. It's the true excellence, and they, in the end, will have more great basketball players at their disposal than any other team in this particular tournament. Does that necessarily mean they're going to win? No. But they certainly are going to, barring one of the biggest upsets in the history of sports, they're going to make it to the knockout stage, as it were, the single elimination stage, because they have games left in their group against Iran and Czechoslovakia. And if they were to lose one of those, then we'd have a story. Then we'd be talking about that on, I might have a separate podcast for talking about that. But it's a loaded U.S. team, but it probably just creates a situation where it's a wake-up call, just like it was for the soccer team. And the soccer team actually had probably a little more peril after they lost that first game. But the basketball team really, really doesn't, and they seem like in a week or so, on August 2nd, they'll be starting up single elimination play, and that will be, it's going to be one of the compelling things about the Olympics. I've consumed some of the Olympics today while I was working out. I was flipping around, watching some golf, and I watched some team handball. I watched ping pong. My God, the two women were playing a epic ping pong match. I didn't even know the new rules they played. They play 7 games to 11. I think back in the day when I played a lot of ping pong, you played to 21. But anyway, it was just unbelievable. And when you watch the greatest ping pong players, it's so funny because the table is so small and these people are hitting the ball so hard or using such angles and everything else. That's what looks amazing about it, that sometimes they can actually manage to hit ridiculously hard shots onto a tiny little table, and that was kind of, but there's all kinds of things you just never see ever during the course of the sports world that you see during the Olympics. Kind of fun to consume those, but certainly the big sports like the swimming and track and field and the gymnastics and the basketball are going to be things that millions of Americans are going to pay attention to, even if this Olympics is fraught with problems, isn't even really wanted in its own home country. All kinds of protests going on that the television seems to be somewhat ignoring, and positive COVID tests all over the place. But when you get down to the individual competition, particularly for me, it's more compelling when it's people who have devoted their life to playing a sport where there's precious little compensation or attention except at the time of the Olympics, like the lady who won the ping pong match. She's 29 years old. She's still playing ping pong at the highest of levels, but it's probably only something that makes her a little bit of recompense when she's at the Olympics, or the name, image, and likeness that she can get out of being at the Olympics. So Olympics rolling on, and I think a lot of people are going to consume it and enjoy it. The other, of course, stumbling block is the fact that the spoiler alerts are out there left and right because it's so far ahead of U.S. time that they're going to be showing things in prime time that happened 13, 14, 15 hours before. Veterans are coming into Chiefs training camp, and I think anybody who listens to me knows that I'm not the biggest. I don't get the biggest thrill out of watching guys practice football, and I certainly don't get that much excitement out of listening to people talk about practicing football. But the Chiefs are the best team in football, even if they didn't win the Super Bowl last year. They're the favorites to win it this year. They rule the sporting roost in Kansas City and deserve to do so. They have the highest profile athlete, perhaps in all of sports in the United States. Worldwide, of course, soccer players have a higher profile, but certainly Patrick Mahomes checks all the boxes, and so anything he does is worth paying attention to. The Chiefs are sort of glossing aside the whole Frank Clark situation when asked about it just before the weekend. Andy Reid just talked about the fact that he'll be here. I mean, that's all he said. He'll be here, and and didn't even really address what's going on with his situation. And of course, until the league does something, until the legal system plays it out, and that's probably going to be the Chiefs' line here. And whether Frank Clark is actually worth all the bother, that's an interesting conversation to be had for another day as well. But day in, day out, you will be getting all the news and more, or that you want, or less in my case. But the Chiefs are big news, and they deserve to be. That'll do it for another edition of Monday Musings, Danny Sports Wrap. It's brought to you by Dillon's Heating and Cooling. Jeff and his guys will take care of you in the best way and treat you like family. And, of course, we've got all kinds of great things going on all week long at DannyKlinkscale.com and the Reasonably Irreverent podcast and Patreon.com/DannyKlinkscale. And stay tuned to all the avenues where you can hear, read, and, well, sometimes see me as well. And we appreciate all the people who get involved at any particular level or level of interest. And have yourself a great day, great week, great life, man.
We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Klinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new. This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like
Dillon's Heating and Cooling, treating you like family with expert and affordable HVAC services.